Good afternoon. Welcome to Glendale City Council Workshop Session of June 10th, 2025. They didn't bring me a gavel, so this meeting is called to order. I'm not going to call an attendance roll call because everybody is here. Councilmember Turner let us know that he would not be able to be here today. With that, if you could go ahead and move item number 1 for us.
Valley Benchmarks Communities Annuals Update.
Well, good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. Thank you, first of all, for your patience as we had to do some last-minute juggling to pull this off, something out of our control, and I think staff done an excellent job of getting this done on very short notice, but we do appreciate your patience. Our first item today will be led by Jenny Durda. She's our Director, of course, of Organizational Performance, and she'll be assisted by Stephen Gushu, who's our Business Intelligence and Analytics Officer.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. The City Management has asked us to provide an annual update for you on our Valley Benchmark community engagement for this last year. Our agenda for today is to review the purpose of VBC, give an update on participants, partners, and the board, update you on this year's annual report, share metric updates that have been made this year, and then review what is coming in the year ahead with our engagement with Valley Benchmark communities. We just have a few slides to present today, so we'd ask that you hold your questions till the end. Valley Benchmark Communities Initiative was created to help local governments improve their performance. Cities work together to identify common demographic, financial, and performance information. They provide and discuss information to better understand the similarities and differences between the cities in our complex and diverse operations. We share data, and we call on high-performing cities to share information, resources, and best practices. The VBC is longstanding. It's been in place since 2011. Glendale joined in that inaugural year. VBC became an official organization in 2012, and the major tangible output of the organization, the annual report, was started in the 23-24 fiscal year. The VBC is hosted by the Marvin Andrews and Jane Morris Fellow Program out of ASU and the Center for Urban Innovation. The fellow for this year is Matthew Billings. The Maricopa County Association of Governments is also a partner for VBC. There are several other private organizations that support VBC by participating in events and meetings or donating funds to support the work of the group. Currently, there are 11 partner cities involved in Valley Benchmark communities. The executive board for Valley Benchmark communities updates biannually, so the board still stands as it was presented to you last year, with Torrin Sato from Avondale as the chair, William Brooks from Scottsdale as the vice chair of membership, Janice Hart of Gilbert as the vice chair of data. There will be elections coming in this upcoming year. With that, I will turn the remainder of the presentation over to Mr. Gushu.
Thank you, Ms. Durda. The primary outcome of the VBC is the annual report, which contains metrics that have been agreed upon by all cities as providing value to benchmark or compare cities. We will not go over the report in detail, but each council member was provided a copy of the report in your packet. As always, this report is a custom version for Glendale. Continuing the format from last year, we have included the Glendale and West Valley median values as part of our individualized report. The cities included in the West Valley median are Avondale, Buckeye, Glendale, Goodyear, Peoria, and Surprise. The report helps the city to identify strengths, to build upon where opportunities where we may be able to improve. Looking at other city metrics compared to Glendale is useful, but the greatest value is that we see which cities may be strong in an area, and we can look to them as subject matter experts on how we might be able to improve our services to the residents of Glendale. This deep connection between cities helps us go beyond just comparing statistics. It helps us understand the differences and similarities between our communities so that we can take what has been successful in another city and adapt it to the work in Glendale with our unique characteristics. Annually, the city managers and city-appointed VBC representatives make recommendations to improve the report and the data that we collaboratively collect. This last year, there were several deep dives to explore what metrics might add value to participating cities. These deep dives results are then reviewed by city managers for potential inclusion in the report. This results will be covered in the next several slides. As you can see on this slide, 4 additional metrics have been added to the demographic section of the report. All the data listed in these metrics will come directly from the U.S. Census Bureau and will not impact city staff time for data collection. The following metrics will be removed from the annual trend report starting in March 2026, as approved in the managers meeting. In cases where the data remains relevant, it will be consolidated with related metrics to avoid redundancy while maintaining the integrity of reporting. Okay. The following 3 metrics around public safety and park and recreation were revised, and the changes will be reflected in the March 2026 annual trend report. These revisions reflect changes to metric definitions and data collection cycles to ensure the consistency and clarity across reporting. These updates will be clearly noted in the report to convey the adjustments made. Lastly, for the year ahead, VBC has several plans to improve how it shares data and information, as you can see here. 2 of particular note: beginning in July 1, 2025, VBC will launch a pilot program to test a secondary data collection cycle focused exclusively on metrics reported on a fiscal year basis. We anticipate this will be a benefit because it will allow communities to access and utilize fiscal year data earlier in their budgeting, planning, and benchmarking efforts. Additionally, this coming year, the following deep dives will occur. We'll be looking at workforce patterns, transportation and pavement condition index, development services, and looking at the calculations that make up our public safety response times. That concludes my presentation. I will be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Any questions?
I do have a question, Mayor. Just out of curiosity, why would only municipally owned golf courses per square mile, when it's still open space, it's still green space, whether it's municipally owned or privately owned, why the decision to just include municipally owned golf courses?
So that is a deep dive that they worked on this last year, looking at all the different parks and recreation metrics. One of the challenges with coordinating between cities is we have to have universal agreement on what goes into the report and what is removed from the report. Several different metrics around open spaces and green spaces have been proposed in the past, but we haven't come to a place of an agreement. That's one that they're currently using, but it's something that's going to be looked at again to hopefully include more information about additional green spaces.
Sorry, very good, thank you.
Mayor, so I just want more information just so I can learn about the finance and administration part, the seasonal temp FTEs authorized for fiscal year, and it was removed. So can you talk a little bit more about that, please?
Yes, so again, there was a deep dive done to examine the different reporting criteria that are used, the things that are included in the report. And one of the big things that's looked at when we're doing that is we ask the question of what is valuable in helping us make decisions. Is understanding the difference in staffing between FTEs and not FTTEs between cities, is there really value that's worth the staff time to collect it? And the decision was made that that wasn't high value enough to warrant inclusion in the report. If we ever have information like that we do want from other cities, as Mr. Gashu talked about, the real value of VBC, obviously the report is helpful and valuable, but the real value is the connection that it builds between people who are doing this type of work between cities. And so if we need that kind of information, we have a ready contact who's agreed that they'll work with their city to provide it as quickly as possible. This last year, we've done several requests to cities to provide us information to help inform decisions. So that removal is not going to make it so we can't find that information later, but it didn't warrant the inclusion in the report.
Thank you for the information. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. If you would, item 2.
Item 2, water resources update, continued drought preparedness.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide the item number 2 today, will be led by Megan Sheldon, our Deputy Director of Water Services, and John Toms, Administrator for Environmental Programs.
Thank you, Mr. Phelps. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. We are here today to present on a water resources update. We typically do this presentation once or twice a year to cover the supplies and demands and our drought preparedness activities. I do want to pause for a second. Many of you are used to seeing our water resource manager, Drew Siskowski, giving this presentation. He retired last month. So we do have a new water resource manager. His name is Zach Richards. He's been here just a few weeks. He's in the audience. So you will be seeing more of him. So again, this presentation is for information and discussion. Feel free to ask questions as we move along. I will cover Glendale's water supplies, and Ms. Toms will talk about our water demands. We will also give you a brief update on the post-2026 Colorado River negotiations, which are ongoing. And then again, what we're doing to prepare for the continued drought. So where does Glendale's water come from? We have multiple sources, including surface water, such as the Salt and Verde rivers and the Colorado River. We have groundwater, and we have effluent or reclaimed water, which is used for irrigating open space, green areas, landscaping, instead of using potable water for those uses. So on the Salt and Verde side of things, that water is delivered through the SRP canals, and we have 2 water treatment plants that take that water in. Our annual SRP supply that we have is approximately 55,000 acre feet. So that is something we don't use that much, as Joanne will tell you later in this presentation, but we do have that much available for the residents and businesses of Glendale. One of the unique aspects of the Salt River project is the concept of on and off project. So I should probably pause for a second and remind whoever might be watching and the council that the water services that the city provides end at 115th Avenue. All the residents and businesses west of 115th Avenue receive their water and sewer service through a private water or sewer provider. So the city's service area ends at 115th Avenue. And then within that service area, we have what's called on-project lands or SRP member lands. And on the screen right now, the green area shows the approximate boundaries of the on-project area, which would be south of the Arizona Canal, all the way to the west up to approximately the New River Channel. So off-project is primarily served by CAP water, and if SRP water is used off-project, we do need to do a balance or a replacement of that to equal that out at the end of the year. Current conditions on the Salt River project are not as good as they have been over the past few years. So the 2024 monsoon season was the 3rd lowest on record, and unfortunately our winter precipitation is, the runoff from that is the driest on record. So as of May 12th, our reservoirs on that watershed are only 67% full. And in comparison, last year at this time, we were at 92%. So that's a pretty significant difference. We're also fortunate enough to get additional supplies through the SRP system. And specifically, it's the new conservation space. This is from entering into a project several years ago where they raised the dam at Roosevelt Dam. And so within that, it created more storage capacity, and Glendale was a participant in that project, and therefore we receive about 10% of that storage capacity, or up to the 27,000 acre feet of space. Once the water fills into that storage area, the water will remain there until Glendale takes their water. We can take that water, treat it, and serve it. We can take that water and deliver it to a recharge facility. So we have a few options. And that water can be used off project. So even though it was collected, captured in the Salt River system, it is not considered association water. It's just new conservation space water. So moving over to the Colorado River, which has received a lot of attention in recent years. So Glendale receives our Colorado River water through the Central Arizona Project Canal, so the CAP. And that water can be used anywhere in the city, and we do. There are times of the year where that water is traveling all the way in the north from Pyramid Peak Water Treatment Plant all the way into the central portion of Glendale and even into the southwest portion. And we have about 22,000 acre feet through the Colorado River as of today. We'll talk more about what it might look like in the future. So current conditions, the CAP system is in a tier 1. So right now, Glendale is not experiencing any shortages or cuts to our supplies. If we dip into a lower tier, like 2 or 3, then Glendale would start feeling some cuts. Also to note is that this system is based on the 2007 guidelines and agreements that have been implemented to date. And right now, the guidelines are set to expire in 2026. So this is where the renegotiation is happening to try to figure out what levels shortage should be set at. In the Colorado River system, the winter precipitation was about average, so that's pretty good news for us. But unfortunately, the spring runoff is pretty low. It's below average because the soil was dry, the vegetation was dry, and so there's a lot of uptake of the water before it reaches our reservoirs. Currently, the reservoirs are at about 40%, and that's very similar to what it was last year at 42%. Based on the most recent 24-month study in April, it's looking like we'll have a tier 1 shortage for 2026 calendar year as well. So that would not result in a change to our allocation, but it is a tier 1 shortage on the Colorado River. So another type of our supply is groundwater. The groundwater comes from either city-owned wells or SRP wells. Some water is treated at the wellhead itself before delivery. Some of our wells are plumbed into the Oasis groundwater treatment plant. The Arizona Department of Water Resources has designated 7,500 acre feet of groundwater as our allowable use. Typically, we're trying to conserve our groundwater. We want to keep it in the ground so it's there for the future. But we could pump up to 7,500 acre feet a year. So effluent production, our effluent and reclaimed water is one of our most valuable water supplies. We recharge about 70% of it, 75% of our reclaimed water is recharged into the ground. And about 30% is reused, again, for that irrigation, landscaping, so that helps save some of our other supplies. So total effluent production within the city of Glendale is approximately 17,000 acre feet per year. And finally, we have long-term storage credits. So this is where we store our water underground for future use. It could be effluent, it could be the NCS water, and we typically accrue about 6,000 acre feet a year. So that's pretty good. We'd like to do better. With a total accrual through the end of 2023 of 200,000 acre feet. So that's a really good number to have. That's about 4 or 5 years of water for the entire city. And we continue to try to put more water into the ground to accrue those long-term storage credits. So with that, I will turn it over to Joanne to talk a little bit about our demands.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So I'll be talking about demand. The city's total potable water use in 2024 was 40,590 acre feet. And again, just a reminder, an acre feet, that's how much water that would fill 1 acre of land, 1 foot high. It's about the equivalent of about 3 households, what they would use in a year. This is water then that went through our city water meters. And you can see the source, the bulk of it is surface water, so that would be SRP at 51%, 47% CAP, and then just 2% groundwater. You'll see a difference in the total acre feet between 2024, 2023, and 2022. And a lot of this is attributed to the summer that we had last year. We had over 100 days where it was over 100 degrees, and then we had 70 days where it was over 110. And so we do see that use increases with weather. Our customers are using more water when it is hot and it is dry outside. This particular graph is showing Glendale's potable water use from 2015 to 2024. So you can see the years on the x-axis, and the blue bars represent the water use from, again, 2015 to 2024, and again, that's in acre feet. The orange line is the population growth. And so in that time span, although our population increased by 11%, our demand actually only increased by 1%. And you see this flattening really throughout the US. In the Valley, a lot of this can be attributed to newer homes are more efficient, they have better plumbing fixtures. We also see newer homes tend to have smaller lot sizes, so much water goes outdoor in the landscape, but not so much for these newer homes. Council approved the water conservation program back in 1985. That's a very successful program, and then council expanded that program in fiscal year 23, and so we see more people taking advantage of our rebates. And then, the city has a long history of a water conservation program. So really important news is about the new Colorado River operations in 2027. The operational guidelines that govern Lake Mead and how Lake Powell are operating, they expire at the end of 2026. The Bureau of Reclamation under the Department of the Interior and the 7 basin states, the Upper Basin and the Lower Basin and Mexico, are working on how to share the Colorado River when the Colorado River is producing a lot less water than it has historically. And as you can imagine, this is a Herculean effort to get 7 states to agree, 2 different countries to work out this agreement, and it's been taking a lot of time, but it is definitely worth the effort to make sure that all of us have water to be able to grow and be dynamic. So this is pretty big news going on right now. And the latest that I've heard is that there was a conference last week in Colorado and the Department of the Interior was there. And the timeline that they gave is that they are hoping to come up with, the states come up with consensus and some sort of a report by the end of this year. And then a final report will be published in the spring of 2026, and then the new rules on how the Colorado River go into effect on January 1st, 2027. So there's a lot of agreements that need to get ironed out in 18 months. So sometimes these are the things that keep me up at night. But like I said, negotiations have been ongoing, and it's moving in a positive direction. As far as cuts to the Colorado River, they're all over the board. Again, the Colorado River is producing a lot less than it has historically. We've got a math problem. More water is leaving the Colorado River than is going into it. And so the cuts have been proposed anywhere from 20% all the way up to 100% as far as Arizona losing out on our CAP, Central Arizona Project water. As you can imagine, Water Services, we are preparing for all sorts of different scenarios and making sure that we have adequate water. We are watching this very closely. So this particular table shows you in the different columns what the operational scenarios, so these are the various cuts that could happen on the Colorado River, especially with Central Arizona Project. The middle column talks about what those reductions would be in terms of acre feet, and then the last column is showing what our available water would be. So another way to think of this table is how do we bridge the gap between a reduced CAP supply and demand? Fortunately, the city has additional water supplies such as groundwater that Megan mentioned. We can use up to 25 acre feet per year. The new conservation space water, we have that. We're very fortunate that that dam was heightened in the 1990s. There was a lot of investment that went into that project, but it secured kind of a new bucket of water for us in the valley. And then also the long-term storage credits that we've been banking underground for a very long time, kind of for a dry day fund. So again, these are some supplies that can help bridge the gap.
Question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I don't know what long-term storage credits, the LTSC, what is NCS?
So Vice Mayor and Mayor, LTS or the NCS is the new conservation space. So in the 1990s, Roosevelt Dam was raised 77 feet, and there were a variety of partners that helped pay for that. Glendale was one of them. And because we made that investment, long time ago, we are able to reap the benefits of that today. So we have NCS water that we can move into our CAP service area. So, usually with SRP water, you have to keep that on project, but that's kind of like bonus water where we can move that up to the CAP service area in times of shortage. Actually, whenever we want to. We have a lot of flexibility with using that NCS water.
Okay, and then Mayor, if I could, the chart says increase the groundwater use up to 25 acre feet. So that is the amount, that's our allocation. So we're currently not feeding that into our system, but we have the option to do that. Is that?
So Mayor and Vice, I'm sorry.
Vice Mayor, Council, yes, that is correct. So right now we're only using about 2,000 acre feet of groundwater in any given year, but we could go up to that 7,000 depending on how much of the CAP is reduced to coming to us.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. I had just a question regarding the SRP-owned wells. What is the operating agreement we have with them? If they own them, how do we use that water? Do we pay them? Do we trade credits? What do we do?
So we have Mayor, Council, Councilmember Malnar. We have agreements with SRP that allows that use of their wells. So they own, operate, maintain those wells. We put in an order to the SRP saying we would like to run such and such a well for these days with the projected 2 million gallons a day, let's say. And so we put in that order and we go ahead and take the water into our portion of the well site where we have our treatment, our chlorination, and then it goes into our distribution system. So when SRP is pumping on our behalf, that comes out of our groundwater allocation, or it comes out of any of our long-term storage credits, depending on how we want to manage our supplies.
Okay, thank you. Mayor, if I may just continue on that train of thought. I don't quite understand how they're just giving us water. I mean, it sounds like they own the water and they are giving it to us. I mean, I don't believe in free things.
No, so they're operating the well on our behalf. So the water is ours, but we're paying for electricity. We're paying administrative fees. So
okay,
yes.
So we own the water rights.
Yes.
They own the well. Okay,
Yes.
that makes sense. And then going back over to our long-term storage credits. If we dip into that, how does that work exactly? Is that just a credit? We say, okay, here's a credit, SRP, send us more water, or how does that work?
Yes, that's correct, Mayor, Councilmember Molnar. So in the event, let's say we need 10,000 acre feet of groundwater in a given year. Well, we're only allowed to pump 7,500. So we would then pump the additional amount and call it long-term storage credits. That is how we would report it to the Arizona Department of Water Resources. That is how it would be accounted for if it's coming out of an SRP well. If it's coming out of a city well, that is how we would record it to be, and then it would get deducted from our account. So it's like a savings account, a bank account. We have the 200,000, but if we're using 3,000, it goes down by that much. But then we're accruing some, hopefully, we're recharging. And so it balances out. But as we use it, it would get deducted from that amount.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mayor, I have a question.
Go ahead.
Getting back on how we pay for it, I didn't see any breakdown here. I would like to know, how much does the city actually pay for the water? I mean, like in dollars.
I don't have that information right now.
Could you get that for me?
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
thank you.
And I believe it's part of our budget every year. There is the raw water line item in the water services budget that talks about Central Arizona Project water, SRP water. But yes, we can provide a breakdown for you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I do have another question. So with the, hopefully it's not 100%, but basically with the uncertainty with CAP water, we have probably 5 years, maybe 6 years or something of water supply, just of what we have on hand. But how does that work with the 100-year water supply when you're talking about development? And what effect will this have on not just any city that's relying on Colorado River water to provide a 100-year water supply? How does that affect that?
So Mayor, Vice Mayor, Tomachoff, Council, right now we are going through our redesignation of assured water supply. So that's every 15 to 20 years with the Department of Water Resources. So because of the uncertainty related to Colorado River negotiations, it's very hard for them to project how much Colorado River water we would have in any given year for the next 100 years. So we're still working on that, which is why we're working on these scenarios in the interim to determine, how much water do we have, how much water capacity do we have through our wells, how do we use our NCS most efficiently and effectively. So the SRP lands use about 20,000 acre feet a year, and the other half would be the off-project lands. And so even though we have 200,000 long-term storage credits to make up for that CAP usage, that 200,000 would last 10 years if we had to use only long-term storage credits. But we also have the NCS water, we also have the groundwater. So there's a lot of opportunities and combinations in our strategy for serving when there is a reduction on the CAP.
Thank you for that. Are we looking at, I know, I think Mr. Cirio had told me, I know Phoenix, maybe it's a group of cities that are doing some sort of study about effluent water and how, at some point, we're going to have, I think, a mind shift on appropriate uses for effluent water. Are we participating in that?
So Mayor and Vice Mayor, yes. And your timing is impeccable because this is the next slide.
Okay.
Okay. So, Glendale Water Services is also looking at these long-term water resource supplies. So the prior slide showed, what we can use in the more immediate term. But think of these two projects that I'm about to talk about is they take a long time to go through the planning, the construction, and then, making sure that they're legal and they're permitted and all that stuff. So think of these as, 10, 15, 20 years down the road. These take a while. One of the supplies that SRP is looking at is raising Bartlett Dam, and that would increase the reservoir capacity. So it's very similar to the project that we talked about earlier, the NCS, the new conservation space where Roosevelt Dam was raised. And if this reservoir is raised, it'll double the capacity. And so in those years where we do get above average precipitation, it would be able to hold that extra water. And again, we would have more flexibility in how we can use this water. So the study, basically what happens is that this is still going through the study process, and if approved, it could take 10 to 15 years to get online. So they're talking about 2040 of having this be online. Another long-term supply that we're looking at is what Vice Mayor alluded to, and that's called advanced water purification. And this is sending high-quality effluent through advanced water treatment. And there's a lot of different processes to make sure that that water is completely safe to drink. The Arizona Department of Environmental Quality recently published rules to make this possible, to make this, permittable. It could happen today if we had a plant. We don't have a plant to do advanced water purification. There's some looking at a regional plant, but right now Water Services is going through different scenarios to see what it would cost if we had our own plant. What if we did a regional plant? Because again, this takes a long time to get online. And with advanced water purification, I think of the water cycle. All the water that we have on Earth is all the water that we are ever going to have, and it's all been recycled. So advanced water purification is just like ultra recycling of the water. We do, in some ways, our treated effluent now is used directly in like landscapes. It's used for cooling, but this would put that water directly into the water distribution system. But again, Mother Nature's been doing it for a long time, and we're just leveraging that. I do want to talk about real quickly about the drought management plan. So Glendale has been in stage 1 of our drought management plan since 2022, and that's because of what was going on the Colorado River. So at that time, we were in a tier 1 shortage on the Colorado River. So our drought management plan has 4 different stages. As you can imagine, each stage progresses in severity and what the various reductions are. And so stage 1, we've been working with the communications department, who has done a wonderful job creating images like this, doing press releases, helping us develop our webpage, doing videos. And then stage 2 would also call for enhanced communication, education, and outreach. I should also say that in stage 1, the city is required to reduce water use by 5%, and we've been meeting that goal. It was a struggle in 2024, but if you look at 2024, thanks to a dashboard that organizational performance created for us, we can pull all of those water meters for city departments and make sure we're on task. And we did, despite the hot summer. And then stage 3 and stage 4 is when the drought management plan becomes a lot more serious. That's when we have water restrictions for our customers. And so a water restriction that you commonly hear about would be like a limitation on outdoor watering. We may have certain days of the week that you are allowed to water or prohibit watering every single day. And the Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, there's a group, the Conservation Efficiency and Advisory Group. We've been meeting to talk about updating our drought management plans. We have to because of the new rules on the Colorado River that go in effect in 2027. And Megan said this, but I just want to reiterate that as far as what we know, based on the hydrology on the Colorado River this past winter, we should be in a tier 1 shortage again in calendar year 2026. So that means Glendale will stay in stage 1 of our drought management plan, which again makes the city have to reduce water use by 5%, so all of our departments, but it is not yet mandatory for our customers to conserve water or have restrictions. I also wanted to give council an update since council approved the expanded water conservation rebate program, and here is a wonderful advertisement that was created by, again, Glendale Communications Department, and this just gives a quick picture on what customers can apply for single-family homes. So there's various indoor water conservation rebates and outdoor water conservation rebates, and then for our commercial customers, we also have rebates. They're just a little bit different than what they would be for residential customers. And this slide shows the breakdown. So you can see the various rebates, and you can see the numbers that have been reviewed and processed, and those checks have been issued to those customers. The most popular rebate is the residential landscape, and again, that's converting unwanted grass to xeriscape. And the second most popular rebate has been toilets for EPA WaterSense toilets for commercial customers, apartments, condos, you name it. And then the third most popular rebate is WaterSense toilets for residential customers. As far as next steps go, Water Services is definitely making sure that we're preparing, we're planning, we're continuing to do education and outreach for our customers. If we do have mandatory water restrictions, it's going to be a big deal, and we want to make sure that no one is surprised. But we are also closely monitoring what is happening on the Colorado River. We have to, and lobbying to make sure that we are getting as most water as we can from that system. That's important for our continued growth. We will continue to look at our long-term water supply opportunities. So I mentioned the reservoir, I mentioned advanced water purification, but we're also looking, always at our short-term options, increasing our groundwater wells. And then because we have to update the drought management plan, and stage 3 and 4 are mandated by council, or I should say announced by council, we will begin to update the drought management plan and present that to mayor and council. And with that, I conclude my presentation. Thank you.
I have a question for you. I was in the legislature 12, 13 years ago. In the early part of being in the legislature, I actually chaired natural resources. One of the things that we talked about a lot was raising the dam, because it was much more cost effective to raise the dam than it was to go in there to try to get all the dirt and everything out that had been collecting for over the years. But as you were talking, I was sitting there thinking of that was over 15 years ago, and you told me they still haven't made any decisions yet. So I think that had we been more effective and had that dam already built, that some of these issues we have right now wouldn't be as big as they are. But if it's another 10 years, if it happened today, so that's what I'm trying to figure out. Is it a combination of the legislature, the governor? Is it a combination of both of them? Is it, who is it? What is the holdup?
Mayor, council, I'm not sure I can answer why it hasn't happened yet. I do know that there's the lengthy process of permitting, the design. So specifically for the Verde Reservoir side of things, they looked at raising the existing dam, but then they also are looking at constructing a dam a little bit downstream at the appropriate height. And I think that's the route that they're leaning towards right now for the environmental impact statement that they will be submitting to the government, for the federal government, for consideration. But the Roosevelt Dam increase, which was put into place and has helped us, has just been a phenomenal investment that the city of Glendale was, and our council was wise enough to invest in back then.
Right. No, I understood that, and I know that Lake Pleasant Waddell Dam was also raised also. But no, I was just trying to figure out what can we as a council, as a city, how do we get this thing moving? Because all it's going to do is cost us more money, and every year we're taking that chance on not having enough water to even take care of the people we have. Mm-hmm. So I didn't know if you might know kind of who's backing things up or slowing things down, but if there's something that we can do that you know about, please let us know.
Thank you. We actually have a project meeting tomorrow, so I will bring that up and see if there is something that cities can do to assist with moving the progress along.
I appreciate it. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So how would you describe, I guess, the current status of the Bartlett? I mean, there's an agreement to move forward with something and a cost-sharing plan, but it's just now waiting to decide what that something's going to be? Is that what I understood what you saying?
Yes, Mayor, Council, Vice Mayor, Tomlichoff, and Council. So right now, we have entered into a cost share agreement on the feasibility study. So again, looking at what makes the most sense. Should we dredge Horseshoe Lake to try to remove the sediment and regain that capacity? Should we raise the existing dam? Is it structurally sound to do that? Build, they have two different heights for the new dam, so they're just looking at all those different scenarios and the costs associated with them. And then would the federal government pay for some of that? Would the state pay for some of that? And then the partners, the participants, and there's a lot of participants interested in this new bucket of water. So it's trying to collaborate at a very large scale, and it's going to be expensive. And there's going to be the permitting piece of it, the environmental impact statement. So it's just taking time.
Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. On the wells, do we have to have authorization as a city to drill a well? And are we limited to how many we can have?
So Mayor, Councilmember Guzman, so we have to get a permit from the Arizona Department of Water Resources to drill a well. We are not limited to the total number of wells we can have in our service area. But when we put a new well in, we need to evaluate whether our pumping is going to affect any existing wells. So there's a well spacing evaluation and a drawdown analysis that has to happen. So that could result in, you couldn't put 5 in a 1 acre or something like that. And again, the fact that we would have additional wells does not mean we need to operate all the wells all the time. In fact, the extra wells would help so we can take one down, do the maintenance required, and be running another one somewhere else in the system. So that gives us some flexibility operational.
So do we have new wells that are being drilled? Right, okay.
Yes, that is correct, Mayor, Councilmember Guzman. We recently drilled 2 wells. We're still working on the equipping those wells. And then we're looking at a few more that's in our CIP as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Item 3, water meter replacement with advanced meter infrastructure update.
Mayor, members of the council, here to provide staff report will be presented by John Henry, our Deputy Director of Water Services, and he'll be assisted by Michael Rotuno, and he's the Vice President of Arcadis.
All right, good afternoon, Mayor and members of the council. So today we're going to be, well, first of all, I want to say we're excited because it's taken us a long time to get us here, but it's going to give us an opportunity to give you an update on the advanced metering infrastructure, commonly known as AMI. So you'll hear that acronym. And we're not seeking any direction or consensus. Today's just for information only. The last update we did with City Council was February of 24, at which time we did receive consensus from Council to move forward with an RFP, or a request for proposal. I realize that not all of you were here at that presentation, so today we have a short presentation to give you an update and an overview of what AMI is, more specifically the benefits. Data analytics would be one of those. Water conservation, drought remains a high priority in all the polls that we've seen among our citizens. So it will give us the analytics and the ability for our citizens to go ahead and monitor their water usage and, if and when necessary, do the appropriate cutbacks as requested. At the end of the presentation, you will have an opportunity to ask questions. So with me today, I got Mr. Mike Rotuno. He's with Arcadis. He's our consultant. And without further ado, I will turn it over to him.
Thank you, John, and good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and Council. We do have a short presentation here for you where we'll cover the following agenda items, talk a little bit about the project, goals, objectives, give an overview of what AMI is, discuss the project work that has begun to date, give an overview of the current state for meter reading as well as what the future will look like with AMI, and then present an overview of the project funding and costs and next steps. So overall project goals and objectives. The goal is to modernize metering infrastructure and then ultimately improve the customer experience through the adoption of this technology. Specific objectives include optimizing water conservation efforts with improved water usage and analytics. And I was asked to point out that water conservation has been polling as a high priority among residents in the polling work that Water Services has been conducting. So this project does support that directly. The project will also improve customer experience by providing more granular water usage and billing information and providing that information more quickly and in a more timely manner. The system will help to optimize in-house operations and processes. The project will result in improved water metering accuracy, which in turn reduces non-revenue water. And then ultimately, AMI is the best available technology for water meter and reading, and so it will enable the city to stay current of industry norms and practices. So a quick overview of what advanced metering infrastructure is. So AMI is an integrated system, which we depict as these four components here on this slide, starting first with the water meters themselves. So they're obviously an important part of the system. The best AMI system in the world attached to failing or inaccurate water meters would not result in a favorable outcome. So the meters themselves are an important consideration in the project. We also put up here sensors because there are more and more newer and advanced sensors which can be deployed out within the water distribution system and then attached to the AMI to give more information about the operating condition in the water distribution system. So meters and sensors is the first component that we think about. Next is the AMI hardware. So this basically is the catch-all for the telecommunications that support the water meter reading. So this is where I need to mention, just to state the obvious, the AMI gathers water meter reads wirelessly using, radio frequency telecommunications. So currently, someone has to go and actually visually look at the meter to get the read off of it. And currently you're doing that one time per month. So the city gets 1 meter read per month and can calculate usage by that customer in that 1 month period. With AMI, the reads come in without needing to visit the meter, and they come in on an hourly basis, or actually in your system, which we will talk about, the system you're selecting, 15-minute intervals. So it's quite a bit more information about the usage characteristics happening, at each premise. So that's kind of the AMI hardware piece, is the wireless communications. We'll talk about the system you're going to select, but just to preview it, the system that the city selected uses cellular technology to gather the meter reads, and as a result, there's not, towers and equipment and infrastructure that you need to install. The reads will come back through the publicly available cellular networks. The third component is software, and so these systems come with a suite of software products that do a few things. The head end and the meter data management things we're showing there are basically softwares that help the city administer the AMI and then stores the meter reading data that can then be used to support analysis and monitoring. Additionally, that data is then integrated with other pieces of software, most importantly, the utility billing system to enable preparation of your recurring water bills, but also with a new customer portal, which we will show, that provides a lot more information to customers so they can monitor their water usage. And then the last component that we think about is the people and processes. So there are new business processes that will be possible with this new information. And that would impact both customer service as well as water services team. So those people will have a lot more information, to run the water distribution system and take care of customers. And then also the customers themselves will have, much more information at their disposal. So I just want to stress, though, that when we talk about AMI, we talk about all four of these areas. So it's not one or the other. It's all four of these things need to be in place for a successful AMI system. So the next few slides, we just want to hit a bit on the benefits that come with the systems. And the first is really benefits for the customer, including the customer portal. So we are including a new utility customer portal as part of the project. So it is a new web-based portal that's going to provide information and self-service capabilities to customers. So certainly it's going to provide electronic bill payment and presentment, similar to the, you have a portal that does that today. It will do those functions. In addition, it provides detailed water usage information that's going to empower customers to much more effectively manage their water usage. The portal that has been selected, called Vertex One, also has capabilities to support various kind of drought response type actions. So the portal gives a lot more capabilities, to help with in some of their drought management. Should the city need to do restrictions and things like that, the portal can support those types of things. And then also the portal's going, and the system as a whole will enable proactive leak detection and leak alerting. So leaks on the customer's side of the meter, because you have much more granular water usage, the softwares have algorithms that basically will identify potentials for customer side leaks, like a faulty toilet as an example, and then the portal and other methods allows water services to then proactively alert that customer much more quickly than, currently when you only get a read once per month. Additionally, there's benefits for the utility, including more precise water usage measurements from state-of-the-art meters. The fact that the reads come in more frequently and do not require having to physically visit the meter allows the utility to reduce instances of bill complaints, rebills, adjustments. The system will reduce vehicle cost and the overall carbon footprint, since the staff won't need to travel around to every meter every month. This also has a health and safety benefit of just kind of reducing time staff needs to be out, in the elements or out working in, around traffic, things like that. And then lastly, there's new data analytics capabilities that can drive, again, water conservation programs as well as other kind of operational analyses. So quick recap of the project to date. So the work started in January 2022. The city retained my company, Arcadis, to do what we call needs assessment or project planning. That work basically commenced, and in February 24, as John mentioned, we brought kind of the results of that work back to council. At that time, we sought permission to move forward with the procurement of the AMI system. We did that through the development and release of a request for proposals, which was issued in August 24. From there through the end of last year, a 5-member committee evaluated 6 proposals that were received, based on established evaluation criteria. And the committee has recommended that Badger Meter be deemed the most responsive and responsible proposal. A notice of intent to award to Badger Meter was published in April 10, 2025. And since that time, the water services team has been, and the city have been working on, finalizing the contract documents for the project. So with all that, just a quicker snapshot of kind of the current state of meter reading in the city and what the future would be. So the city has approximately 65,000 total water meters. They are all located outdoors in water meter boxes. Currently, The city is using mechanical water meters. 94% of those meters are read manually by a meter reader who walks around, lifts the cover, and then visually records the numbers on the meter dial and punches them into a handheld device. 6% of the current meters are also mechanical, but they're outfitted with a radio read system, which we call AMR, automated meter reading. Those reads are gathered by a technician who drives around in a vehicle, and so the reads are gathered, wirelessly, but still only once per month, and based on someone having to manually go and kind of drive by the meters. With AMI, the intent is that 100% of the meters will be fit with a Badger Orion cellular AMI endpoint. That's that little device on the very right at the top. It's a little antenna. Many of the meters will be replaced with new Badger E-Series ultrasonic style water meters. And then the project will deliver 2 pieces of software on the bottom left, Badger Beacon AMI, which is provided as software as a service by Badger Meter. That's the system that utility staff will utilize to monitor the performance of the AMI, as well as to work with the water consumption and meter read data. And then on the right, the Vertex One customer portal, the aforementioned customer portal software, which will provide, again, new functions, and that will be rolled out to the customer base. So this slide talks about the project funding. So the project costs are included in the current water rates. Approximately $33 million has been included in the 5-year CIP. So the project is budgeted for. We did apply for a Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart Water and Energy Efficiency grant. We applied for that in November of 24. Awards for this grant are up to $5 million. The award notifications are still pending, and there are some questions about the current, state of this grant program, but the grant application is in. I think the important point is that the project is not reliant on the attainment of this grant. It would be obviously helpful to get that funding, but the project's not dependent upon award of that grant. This slide presents an overview of the project costs on the left and then the project benefits on the right. So as part of the needs assessment and planning work, we did do a full benefit cost evaluation for the project. So starting with the project costs on the left. So at the top block, we have a summary of the major, scope items of the project with a subtotal, 10% contingency, and we arrive at the line that says total acquisition cost with contingency, $30.778 million is the current estimate for that. So that's the kind of capital cost, which it will take to purchase and install the system. We also estimated the ongoing operational costs. So the row under that depicts the operating costs for years 4 through 15, the total operating costs for years 4 through 15 at just over $8 million. And so we arrive at the total 15-year life cycle cost there of $38 million and a bit more, $38.8 million. And that is cash value, so that's just the cash value of all the 15-year operating costs. On the right, we show a summary of the benefits estimates. Values on the right are in net present value, so net present value of the benefits, we estimated over 15 years to be $50 million. Net present value then of the costs, 35.9. Again, net present value adjustment is done there. We do that to basically get to the project return on investment values, verify that the project is viable and in the city's best interest. And you can see by those metrics that it is. So benefit cost ratio 1.39 shows that the benefits outweigh the project costs. Payback period just over 9 years, so the project pays back within its expected useful life. Okay, so high-level schedule, so preliminary schedule for the project. We had been targeting a notice to proceed for the vendor September 1. That may move a few months because, as I mentioned, we're still working on the contract document. So depending on how long it takes to finalize, though, that might move to, October, November start date. But the project then basically will move through an initial planning stage, and then it starts with what we call an initial deployment. So we start with a small number of meters. I think it's 3,800 meters initially to put in, to get the software running, to work on the integration, just basically make sure that the system is working correctly and that the software is working correctly. Then we transition into what we call the full deployment, is where we roll out the majority of the meters. The whole project is expected to take about 3 years, so 1 year roughly for the initial deployment, and then 2 years to install the remainder of the meters. The customer portal then gets deployed in there, so we will start somewhere during the initial deployment and then start deploying out the customer portal. Okay, I think John's going to talk next steps.
Yeah, thank you, Michael. So next steps. So really, council contract approvals for 2 separate contracts, one with Badger Meter or Beacon Software, and then the other one will be the Vertex One. Again, like Michael said, that we're still working out the contract documents for both. So we hope to see that come to council sometime in August. Another key component of the planning phases is, developing a customer communication plan and working with our marketing team and others to make sure that everyone understands what we're doing and when. And then, as we alluded to, we targeted September 1st, but, it's looking like that's going to slip a couple months, as Michael alluded to. Go next. With that, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Yeah. I have 2 questions. On page 8, where you talk about the Badger Meter E-Series ultrasonic water meters with Onion Cellular, can you kind of, is that like phone cellular? I mean, how does that work?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council, yes, it runs over the cellular network. It uses a specific protocol which exists in the broader cellular network, but yes, it runs over cell towers. It's akin, I think of it as akin to sending a text message, though, because it's strings of data are sent, and they carve out a very specific piece of the cellular band for what they call these kind of scientific and public service type applications, AMI being one of them.
Okay. The other question is, if a customer has a leak, how will they be notified?
Yes, Mayor and Council. So the portal will display a message. So if you're signed up for the portal, you would see a message displayed on the portal. But there are other outbound communication methods that we're discussing, such as an outbound phone call or an outbound text message, or the last result would be a mailer. So once the system identifies that there might be a leak, there's these multiple channels that can be available to then notify the customer that they might have a leak that they should investigate.
But the first step is through the portal?
The portal is definitely going to be there, and I think there'll be these other steps, and I think the way it will work, we'll go down like kind of the contact information, right? So I suspect, where there's email, there'll be emails, and probably everyone will get a letter. And the reason I'm being a little bit, I'm hedging on this, so the system has all these capabilities. We haven't started, designing the business processes yet, but the idea is multi-channel communication so that we can get them, to as many people as we can, right? So they can, take action on the possibility of that leak.
Okay, thank you.
Mayor, sorry if I may. Some of those options or some of those communications may be opt in or opt out. So I think there will be ways that a customer inside that portal can tell us, I want a text message, or I want an email, I want, what kind of information they want to receive. They'll have those options to opt in and out.
Okay, and I only asked because I had a leak once and it was really expensive. So if you have a leak, it'd be good to be able to know that right away.
Yes, and many of the other cities, our peer cities, do have this kind of technology. I used to have a rental property in the city of Tempe, and it alerted me right away when I had a leak. So it's very nice for customers. It's a very good feature.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, question I have. One of our neighboring cities, probably at least 10 years ago, maybe, I think even longer, had the system where the vehicle has to drive by to pick it up. I'm curious, most everybody's water meters are flush with the ground. What does this one do? Does it stick up above the lid? Does it stay level? If it sticks up above the lid, then what happens if a lawnmower hits it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So the way that the endpoint works is it mounts through the lid, but it's flush. So the bulk of it is underneath the lid. We, as part of the project, replaced the metal lids with composite plastic lids because they help with the transmission of the signal, because the metal will block the signal. So part of the project is to replace the lids. The lids then come specially designed with a recessed little hole in it that's specifically made to fit these particular Badger endpoints. So they sit on top, but the edges are beveled and they're flush to prevent them being, a tripping hazard or getting damaged if run over by a mower or a vehicle. They're designed to withstand kind of those common, environmental things that exist.
Okay, well, that's good to know. The other thought I had is there's several people that have flood irrigation. If in fact your box is totally flooded, does that affect the electronics in it, or does it affect the transmission?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So the electronics are all designed to be fully submersible because it's a expected condition that the box could get flooded. And then because the endpoint sticks up through the lid and transmits out, it should prevent the signal being attenuated by the water. Now, if the whole box is flooded under surface water, then potentially the signal could get attenuated, but they're designed basically so that they rebroadcast, so that every time they send data out, it doesn't just send the last read, it sends like days worth of read data, so that the idea is if it is truly flooded to the extent that the signal doesn't get through, the next time that the signal is successful, it backfills all of the prior read information.
Okay, and then my final two questions. You have a contractor, once things start moving, a contractor would come out and change those out, not city employees, is that correct?
Mayor, members of the council, that is correct. We do have a contractor as part of Badger's RFP. However, we did reserve the right for city employees to install meters as well.
Okay, so that leads to my next question. If you got, I don't remember how many thousands of these you're talking about, but cast iron lid probably weighs 10 pounds each. It's got value to it. What happens to the lids as you take them up when we no longer use them?
Mayor, council members, so all scrap will be disposed at our warehouse location, and then we will use our city contract to dispose of it and get scrap value for that.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure that was, you guys had thought about that, and you did. Good job. Who else? You?
Yeah, thank you. So a couple of questions. The only way to access for a user to access their, and now like if people have a leak, you tell them turn everything off, go outside, look at your meter, see if it's turning. You can't see anything on this, so they basically have to have portal access, right? In order to look at it themselves.
So, Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor and Council, you can still go physically look at the meter. So they can still open the lid. The meters have a liquid crystal display LCD, but when you open the lid, the display comes alive, and you can still see the reading and it does have, I believe, a little leak flag on it. So yes, customers can still go physically look at their meter, but then the portal is obviously, preferred and probably the better way to,
Right, yeah, understood, although I'm sure probably all of us may have constituents who, don't have computers, don't want to use computers, that sort of thing. So just that if somebody would still be able to, they think they have a leak, you can still look at this and you're going to be able to see that everything's off and water's running somewhere.
Yes.
Okay, that's my first question.
Yeah, one other thing to add to that, Mayor, Vice Mayor, is that our customer service reps will also have that data. So should the customer call it, the billing number, and we'll have 4 times a day that data will be coming in. So if at 10 o'clock in the morning we choose and they call in at noon, we could say, here's what your usage was, here's what your read was / usage, and then we'll be able to help them troubleshoot any issues. And as always, if the customer still can't figure it out, we have customer service reps that can be deployed out to assist.
Very good, thank you. So my second question is this Vertex One portal, is it also an app, or do you have to use, would it be available for somebody to download as an app to use on their phone? Or is it just something that you basically is, software-based that you have to have a computer to use it?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Vice Mayor, I believe that it is, I know for certain that it will work on mobile devices because it has that kind of form factor. It will change form factor if it senses that it is on a mobile device. And I believe they have told us that there is an app, a true dedicated app that is forthcoming. But in both cases, yes, it will be accessible from.
Okay, so maybe their apps is still in development. Is that? Okay.
Yeah, yes.
All right. I do have another question, Mayor, if I could continue. How many meter readers do we have, and are they going to be reassigned to other tasks and duties, or how's that going to work?
Mayor, Vice Mayor, so we have currently 11 water service representatives that read meters, and we also have temporary staff. During the business case analysis that Arcadis did, we did show that there's 5 that we will repurpose. So as you enter into software of this magnitude, you're going to need different types of services. As Mr. Rutuno indicated, that our business processes will change, so we will redeploy those folks into positions like that.
Okay.
For instance, data analysis, data analytics, and then, no system is foolproof. You are going to have issues where gophers chew through something, or you're going to have to deploy staff out there, to the resident's house to troubleshoot what's going on. But we will repurpose those staff members.
Okay, and one last question, Mayor, if I could, for billing. So, is this Vertex? Can they pay their bill through this system? Or is the city going to basically merge with the city bill pay, or is this just going to feed over to our billing, and they're going to still issue bills the same way? Is this going to change anything with that?
Yes, Mr. Mayor and Council. The portal, the Vertex will be a full service utility portal, so it will have utility bill presentment and payment options, as well as the usage monitoring and reporting. So it'll be a one place where water customers can go and do all the things they need.
Okay, so that's probably another,
Mayor,
I think Ms. Rios wants to say something.
Well, I also wanted to add that they'll still, depending on what the customer wants, they can still get a traditional mail bill in that regard too. Over time, we're trying to push people more to these online services, but some people still want to get, a paper bill, so we can accommodate that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, one more question. I think that we're probably done. It's a great system if the problem is on the homeowner side of that water meter. If it's on the street side of the water meter, does this have any way of saying, hey, there's not as much pressure as normal, and saying we got a problem here, or do we just wait until we find a massive mud puddle somewhere and then try to figure out where it happened?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. So the system does provide some functions that help manage the distribution system. And so one of those things is acoustic leak detection. And we that is kind of embedded in the system and reads over the AMI. So we have included that in the scope to, pilot basically to try out, but it's available to do that. So, it's using, acoustic kind of sensing technology, right? It can kind of hear the leak and then correlate generally to where it is and then kind of display on a map, you might have a leak in this area. Additionally, with much more granular water usage information, it's a lot easier to do like water balance type analysis to kind of look and see, here's what all the metered consumption was, here's what we put into the distribution system, the production side, and have a better view of that, kind of what we call non-revenue water, where might we be having, leaks. The meters also have the option to come with integrated pressure sensors in them. And so those are typically not deployed on every single meter, but they're available should the city want to put some, sprinkled throughout the distribution system to have a kind of a view, more granular view of like pressure in different parts of the system. So there's a lot of new capabilities.
And Mayor, we do intend to deploy pressure sensors throughout the distribution system, probably in every quarter section. It really helps us manage what we're doing. And like you said, if we see a mass pressure drop, we know there's an issue going on, and we can, take a more proactive approach.
Yeah, well, for the homeowner, if it's on the city side, it doesn't hurt the homeowner because he's not paying for that. I was just trying to figure out was there some method, and it sounds like there is kind of a method. Maybe they'll refine it, get it better in years to come. But there is a potential possibility that they could detect that there's a leak somewhere before it gets to the meter. Is that correct?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. There's tools.
Okay.
The system brings you more tools and capabilities to see what's going on and proactively detect leaks.
Okay. All right. Is that it? Go ahead. You don't have to talk as close to your microphone. You can back up. There you go.
Mayor, Council. Hello. I would like to ask about cybersecurity, data privacy, and vendor accountability. So I think that this is going to be a great technology for our city. I'm just want to understand a little bit more. Maybe we can have a follow-up meeting before the August approval about cybersecurity. So I'll just go through all of my questions. There's 8 of them, and then maybe we can follow up afterwards. But my questions involve so data security. What measures are in place to protect customer data being transmitted over the cellular networks and also through the online portal? How is residents' information going to be secured with those 2 portals that you mentioned? Will any customer data be sold or shared to third parties? What protections are in place to prevent this? Are there any external vendors or contractors involved in managing this data? If so, what protocols and agreements govern their access and their use of the data? What specific provisions in our contracts ensure that data privacy, preventing resale and holding vendors accountable for a potential breach? Has any of these vendors experienced any cybersecurity breaches in the past? And also, what are some best practices from other municipalities who have implemented these systems in terms of their cybersecurity? And what contingency plans are in place in case of a data breach or a system compromise? Thank you. And you could comment on any of them, but those are my 8 questions.
Mayor, if I may, our IT department has been very involved in the evaluation of these various systems. So we can get some more in-depth information for you, but essentially, over the cellular network, what is being transmitted is just numbers. There is no customer identifying information except a number to identify that's that customer, but their name, all of those things are not being passed through the cellular network. It's being passed up and then reconnected to them inside our own billing system and inside of our systems. And all of these questions that you have, while we can, of course, get you some more detailed information, those were all part of selecting this system. And our IT department, our security team, has also weighed in on the value. They are also part of what has been going back and forth in the negotiations of the contract as to who will be responsible for those kinds of things that you were asking about.
Thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Is that it? Thank you. City manager report.
If staff is ready, we'll run the city manager report for this meeting. Hi, everyone. Kevin here, and I'm back with an update on what's new and noteworthy in our city. Over the past several years, businesses and developers have frequently shared with our team just how much they enjoy working with the city of Glendale. Privately, we believe that our business development team was the best in the region. Well, that belief has been validated. The Arizona Chamber of Commerce and Industry just awarded Glendale with the 2025 Best City to Do Business in for the entire state of Arizona. The award highlights both our strong economy and our dedication to helping businesses grow and thrive. Over the past 6 years, this focus on economic development has created nearly 13,000 new jobs in Glendale and billions of dollars in private investment. And it's not slowing down. There's more than $1.5 billion in development underway just in our sports and entertainment district. We're proud to be recognized as a place where companies of all sizes can succeed. Our city pools and splash pads are making their opening splash. Now through the end of July, Foothills Recreation and Aquatic Center and the Rose Lane Aquatic Center are open Tuesday through Saturday, and our splash pads are running 7 days a week. We're proud to offer these refreshing spots to cool off. Great job to our Parks and Engineering departments for ensuring the pools were ready to open by Memorial Day weekend. They worked quickly with contractors to restabilize the ground under our pools and repaired all cracks and structural issues. As temperatures rise, Glendale is taking action to keep our community safe. Our fire, police, and community services department recently joined forces for a media outreach event which focused on heat safety. In partnership with Arizona's Family, they showed just how fast a car can heat up and why it's never safe to leave kids or pets inside. They also shared tips for recognizing heat stroke and how to prevent it. The event even highlighted Glendale's heat relief stations and the resources available for everyone struggling with extreme heat. The Glendale Fire Department recently celebrated employee achievements and milestones at its annual award ceremony. Captain Matthew O'Brien earned Firefighter of the Year. He was recognized for mentoring his crew and for leading by example. He even gave his old personal card to a cadet who needed transportation to work. Fire Station 153 earned Station of the Year. While rebuilding their station, the crew operated out of a trailer for more than a year, maintaining excellent service and a positive attitude the entire time. Congratulations to all firefighters who are recognized for their hard work and dedication. Some of Glendale's youngest learners got a jump start on school. Our Parks and Recreation Department held Kindergarten Readiness Week at Rose Lane Community Center. Each day, kids joined in fun activities to build skills for school. The kids were engaged, eager to learn, and had a fun time. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with more updates soon.
Okay, next on the agenda is council items of special interest. Council members have the opportunity to indicate topics that they'd like to have discussed by this council in a future workshop. So, Councilmember Baldenegro, have you any?
Nothing today, sir.
Thank you. Councilmember Conscious?
Yes, Mayor. Is this a good distance? Okay. Mayor, Council, I'd like to request a council item of special interest to ask the City Council to formally consider transitioning the City Administrative Policy 11, the stipend program from 2022 from an administrative policy to a City Council approved adopted policy. This transition could possibly promote greater transparency, establish a formal review period, and create structured opportunities for resident input. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Guzman?
Nothing.
Thank you. Councilmember Milner?
Nothing today, Mayor.
Vice Mayor?
Nothing today, Mayor.
And I have nothing. With that, can I get a motion to go into executive session?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, vote aye.
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 Any opposed, vote nay. You guys do have it, that motion carries.
why I'm doing
Council
that.
meeting is
Not leave me.
recessed.